Are you ready to make a difference in the lives of others? If so, then you should consider becoming a recovery coach. Recovery coaches are trained to help people in recovery, seeking recovery, or struggling with addiction. They provide support, guidance, and resources to help people on their recovery journey. CCAR Training is the leading provider of recovery coach training programs. Our programs are designed to teach you the skills and knowledge, what we call the science, while giving you an understanding of your own art needed to be a successful recovery coach. We offer a variety of training options, most offered online. If you're interested in becoming a recovery coach or just learning more, I encourage you to visit our website or contact us today. We would be happy to answer any questions you have and help you get started on your journey to becoming a recovery coach. We hope you'll visit us at www.addictionrecoverytraining.org to learn more.
Are you in the recovery field and looking to expand your knowledge of the many pathways to recovery? Do you want to network with the nation's leading recovery leaders? If so, then the Multiple Pathways of Recovery Conference is for you. CCAR, Recovery Iowa, and the Iowa Department of Health and Human Services are bringing the message of multiple pathways to our friends in the Midwest. Join us August 21st through the 23rd at the Embassy Suites in Des Moines, Iowa for the National Recovery Conference, where we share and educate one another about the many different pathways, methods, practices, programs, and belief systems recoveries can use to enhance their recovery journey and sustain long-term recovery. Whether it's a 12-step, secular, a spiritual religious modality, medication-assisted recovery, or wellness-based and sober active communities, we've got you covered. At MPRC, you'll have the opportunity to connect with the recovery community, broaden your knowledge of the multiple pathways, and be refreshed in your journey of recovery, whatever that may be. So don't miss out on this incredible opportunity. Tickets are on sale now at ccarconference.org. That's ccarconference.org. The Multiple Pathways to Recovery Conference, the National Recovery Conference, where all pathways to recovery meet.
Join us on the Recovery Matters podcast, where we celebrate the power of resilience and explore multiple pathways to recovery.
So tell us a little bit about yourself, Kathie.
I work with people in recovery, and I've been basically with Alcoholics Anonymous since 2010, which really saved my life because it changed my lifestyles, changed everything that I need to change about myself. But then when I started working with Carver, I opened my mind up a little bit more. The 12 steps are a basic life plan, but now the people I work with, I'm the Renegade AA person. I'll let them know right away I am. I know I needed to add some more things to people's lives. They needed more things that they could use for recovery. And I'm doing IOP treatments at a hospital here one day a week. And they set up sort of AA meeting, but everybody with everything is in there. Dual diagnosis people, PTSD. And so I told the lady when we talked about it, I said, I can't do a strict AA meeting. And besides that, these people need more outreach, more things to go with. And so I'm doing them all. Maybe 10% are actually alcohol problems. We have drugs, we have PTSD, we have depression, we have anxiety, but they're all coming together. And they're not there as long as maybe they're going to be there 2 or 3 weeks, maybe 30 days maximum at this facility. So I'm trying to give them outreach when they leave there for things they can do. We've worked on people with yoga. I have friends who are with yoga. They have yoga classes. We have meditation classes. I just sent 6 of them out on a little boat to Ship Island just to spend a day with nature, which isn't something you actually do with AA. But I base it on the 12 steps. I do. I work with the 12 steps. And then I just add more pieces in their pie as they go along. It's been a real awakening, though, to not be a strict, like, this is how this is going to be, this is how that's going to be. Looking for more ways to help people that way.
Multiple pathways. So let me ask you, though, this is where you are today, and you've been very successful, and you helped a lot of people. But you quickly said, well, I moved when I was 12. What were you like as a little girl from 0 to 12? What do you remember?
I was an only child until I was 12 years old.
Yeah.
And my mother had lost 2 children before me at birth through problems. So they were very, very cautious over me, very, very protective. I grew up with the pressure of not wanting to do something to hurt their feelings.
Mm.
There was no physical corrections of any kind. There'd be a scolding. But I had that so deep in me, don't want to hurt their feelings, don't want to do something wrong, have to make the best grades, have to be the first one chair for the band, just pushing myself. And they didn't do it. I put that on myself.
Mm-hmm.
So as I grew older into a teenager, I carried that on. And then my parents divorced when I was 15. Totally unexpected. I never saw them argue one day in my life. I didn't have that trauma. So that was just a big, big stopping point. Everything changed.
Why did they? Do you know why?
Well, my father was in New Orleans teaching at Tulane.
Mm-hmm.
My mother did not want to live in New Orleans, so we lived in Bay St. Louis, little town right outside. We didn't have an interstate at that time, so it was probably an hour and a half to drive. And first he started driving back and forth. Then economically, they started coming home on weekends. And Tulane is a very political place to be. He had to be involved in a lot of things. He had a radio show over there, Let's Talk It Over. They wanted him to run for senator. And he was a very gentle, loving person. And they grew apart. That's exactly what happened. My mother was a nurse, but she didn't work well. Then I had two sisters born after I was 12. That didn't keep them together, by the way. That is not a good way to do things. And so, then I decided I would graduate early from high school. My dad was teaching at Tulane at the time. And so I was expected to go to college. My mother always wanted me to be a nurse. From the time I was 5 or 6 years old, every watch she bought me had a second hand because I was going to be a nurse because I could take pulses.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's forethought.
Yeah, they did not really realize the pressure they were putting on me because I never complained about it.
Mm-hmm.
And so then I graduated early from high school. My father changed jobs and went to the Mississippi State College for Women. So I went to Mississippi State College for Women, very well behaved because my dad was up there and things were nice. But I decided I met a young man who had long hair, a white Mustang, just came back from England and played in a band. He was the perfect husband.
Yeah.
My parents didn't think so, but I decided I'd marry him anyway. So went to Justice of Peace and got married. I had 2 children.
Well, we gotta pause there because you were the one that was trying to make all the decisions in alignment with your parents' wishes and not hurt their feelings and all of that. So, and I'm really connecting with a lot of that. I was raised by very strict parents, but I kind of broke free at age 17 because I just couldn't take it anymore. I couldn't live under their rules. So tell me what that felt like for you.
Oh, I was going to be the hippie of the year. I was going to be free now. Life was going to be wonderful. Didn't think anything about the consequences of how you were going to live because he was still a wild spirit, at that point. I didn't have my first drink until I was 21. I never drank. My parents had a martini at night, and I can remember fixing their martinis with them. And sometimes I would switch the gin and vermouth, make it opposite just to see what they would do, how it felt. But I never had a desire to drink or use. I was going to be the rebel. I just wanted to escape.
Yeah.
I wanted to escape and be on my own. And then the first drink I had, like I said, I was 21 years old, went on a blind date because at that time I got divorced. I decided that wasn't going to work anymore. And first drink I had, I got totally drunk on rum and Coke. Had never had alcohol before. And I thought, why would somebody want to do this? But boy, that was the most exhilarating feeling. You didn't care about anything that went on. And I wouldn't drink for a while. Then I go back and I discovered wild turkey at a Mardi Gras ball. I eliminated a lot of drinks as I went along. And then we reunited with my husband for a little while. And we decided that we were going to be the psychedelic experience. And let's do that. So I did LSD with him twice, scared me to death. I didn't think it would ever end. And then I went through, I went back and got my master's, worked all through school and did everything. But I was still missing something all the time. Fell in love again, of course, got married. My husband died, accidentally shot himself. Oh. Terrible traumatic experience that we were going through during that time. Was married 8 months.
accidentally shot himself?
Yes. Here's what happened in this. He was playing with the gun and he was drunk.
Huh.
And I knew he'd been doing drugs. I'd been at the hospital all day playing with the gun. And he shot himself in the side for sympathy because one of our friends had no idea he was so messed up that he would kill him. Buckshot went all the way through him, totally shot. So at that time, I decided I was going to move to California. That was going to work out. Let's change people, places, and things, go on. So for several years, I kind of wandered with that situation. I never was a good marijuana smoker, wasn't good because I never smoked cigarettes. All I did was eat when I did weed and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And alcohol just played a different part in it. Looking for things to fulfill that need, that exhilaration all the time that came along. And so it went on for a long time. I remarried to a wonderful husband in 2000. He was a cardiovascular surgeon. He was older than me, not by too much, and adored me, and we had a wonderful relationship. But I didn't realize his addiction to alcohol either.
Wow.
Because, yeah, he drank too. And I didn't drink very much because I had to take care of him part of the time. He passed away in his sleep with aneurysm, blood clot, went from his leg through his lung, through his heart. He was diabetic. So there was another deal. So that accelerated the drinking.
How old are you at that time?
He died in 2005.
Are you in a career at this time? What are you doing? Are you working?
I've retired from the hospital. I was a vascular technician.
Yeah.
I judge dog shows. That's how I make some extra money and do things now.
Yeah.
I'm judging. Coming up, I'm going to Atlanta, Chattanooga, and then I go to Italy at the end of September and judge in Italy.
Mm-hmm.
Make a nice living with that. That's just my outlet. That's my other pathway, is traveling, enjoying that part of it. Then I come back and I work like mad because Thursdays I do a women's group, an AA meeting that's transferred more into a multiple pathway meeting because we are renegades with that too. They've got that from me.
Mm-hmm.
On Sunday night, I go to a speaker meeting for another group. On Tuesdays, I do IOP at the hospital here with a group there. On Wednesday night, I do a Zoom speaker meeting that's multiple, different AA, NA, things like that. And in between there, I have about 11 people I work with on a regular basis.
Wow.
In different phases of recovery.
So you've always maintained an income through all this, doing a variety of things. So we're at 2005 and the cardiovascular surgeon passes away of an aneurysm. And then what happens? Drinking took off.
Drinking took off.
Yeah.
When he passed away for about 2 years. Really, really heavy. And I was in Rotary at the time. I still am in Rotary. And we traveled to Toronto for a convention. And the partner I have now was a friend of ours. And trust me, I didn't even like him. He drank a lot too. It just fit right in. Mm-hmm. And so while we're in Toronto for the international convention, we do the meetings all day long. About 5 o'clock, we go down and have a couple glasses of wine, maintaining ourselves. The last night before we left, I had discovered this wonderful bar there. It was like Wild Coyotes.
Mm-hmm.
And we got so really, really drunk. Drinking abstinence. You should never drink things they set on fire. That is not good. I danced on the bar. I'm sure it wasn't that attractive. Mm-hmm. Had a horrible argument, which I've never had an argument because I'm not a fighter kind of thing. So I walk away and say, okay, you can have your own opinion. I'm good with that. And I decided when we got back home that I was going to get some help.
Wow.
I wasn't going to continue trying to hide and drink and try to make all these things go away. And luckily, a higher power gave me a good program because if I would have been able to settle the estate and everything at that time, I would have wasted any finances that were there. I would have been, the party person, bought ridiculous things. And so that in 2010, I decided I was going to go to AA because my friends and my partner had started going back after we got back. And I thought, you surely aren't going to all these meetings. I got the schedule. Why are you going to all these meetings? And then found out he'd been in AA before that. So I didn't go from, June until February. We were in New York for the dog show. And he was going to an AA meeting. I was shopping. And I hadn't drank since June. but my mind was so messed up. I couldn't sleep. I just crazy things going on. I called Pine Grove and I thought about checking myself into Pine Grove because I'd sent people there. That's how desperate I was. And so for about 3 days, I was a recluse, just miserable, trying to figure out what was going on in myself. And so one day I woke up and I had prayed and I'd talked to people and said, okay, you're going to sit here and do this, or are you going to do some action work? Or you can figure it out. And I called a friend of mine in the medical field, and she had been sober over 30 years. She never said anything about my drinking or using or anything like that. And I said, I think I want to go to one of those meetings. And she said, okay, I'll pick you up at 4:30. Well, now, being the total addict I am, I didn't mean I wanted to go today.
Yep.
That mean I had a plan to go in the near future problem. So she picked me up, and we went to a meeting at the center where I used to work part-time with the mental part of it, behavioral addiction. That's where I sent people. But I was so desperate, I really didn't care. I thought, well, they'll either think I'm spying on people here or the inmates running the asylum. But I didn't care. Huge room. There were probably 30 people there. I didn't have a clue what they were even talking about. And they passed the basket. There's a tradition they do where you put $1 in the basket. I didn't know it was $1. I put a $20 bill in. I thought it was like church or something. And got a chip for the time I've been sober. And from then on, it just took off. One of the men there said, we're like aliens in this world. Nobody really understands addicts and alcoholics and things. And I thought, okay, this is a little bit far out for me. This is some kind of cult, because I didn't understand. So for the next few weeks, she went to meetings with me, and then her husband pulled back because he really didn't want her around AA in our local area. Her father had started Addiction Center in Jackson, Mississippi. And so I got the schedule, and I started going to every single meeting I could. Because during the time from June until then, I bought every book. I had bookshelves. I didn't need to talk to anybody. I could read all these books. I took the 12 steps and said, okay, I'll work 1, 2, 3, let's see, maybe 8 and 9. I was going to do it my way. So when I finally decided I needed to reach out for help, and that's what I tell people now, pick up the phone before you do that first drug, before you have that first drink, before you have these desperate situations when you're depressed. Call. If you can convince me it's a good idea, I'll come pick you up. We'll go drink and drug or whatever. I'll come pick you up, though, and take you to the beach. I'll take you to a movie. I will take you somewhere to get your mind out of that. And then you tell me what you're looking for in your life. Let's find a way that you can find it for happiness. When I go to the IOP center, I tell them when I leave, next week I come back, I want you to tell me one thing that you're really grateful for that happened good. I don't care if it's the fact that you just went to work every day. Just tell me one happy thing. It is difficult dealing with some of the people on medication. And I told them, too, when I went in, that I will not tell you not to take medication. I'm not a doctor. And I'm a believer in myself that you have to have medication sometimes in order for your brain to work and understand what we're even talking about. It's physical and mental. So those are things I work with right now. It's a wonderful life. The promises that come through with it, being sober and clean with stuff, getting out of the depression, getting out of my own problems, getting out of myself, and helping other people. I love to see. I had a new lady come in yesterday. She had a little baby, came running into the stepsisters meeting, and she sat down, and CPS, Children Protective Services, are called. She's on an intervention drug program where she has to have her papers signed and things. And she said, I feel so good to be here. I've never been able to talk to people and just say what I want to say. My family doesn't understand. She said, I just feel like I can talk about anything. Very first time she came to a meeting. That's what makes you feel good, that you can reach somebody and they don't have to hide or seclude and things like that. I was hid for so long. I never said I had a problem with anything. I was an inside drinker a lot of times.
Yeah, I think I've been in other women's groups that are not revolving around recovery. And the way we share typically in any kind of recovery group is kind of just here it all is, right? Like, there it is. One of Phil's team asked me this morning how I was, and I said, "Do you want the honest answer?" And she's like, "Yes." And so I told her exactly what I was navigating and how I was feeling, and I ended up crying. But in these other women's
Hey,
groups, I was too much, that kind of authentic self
yeah.
without putting the mask on. I often felt like it was just too much for them. But it's so healing to be around people who are doing the same.
We did the mask scenario with the lady at one of the meetings.
Yeah, the art
That was a
therapy.
really good one. That
Mm-hmm.
was really, really good. I've stolen that a little bit.
Yeah.
She did a very good program. I would like to see that one done again for people.
Yeah, so Phil missed out on that, but we had a
Oh yeah.
two-sided paper mask, and on one side,
Hmm.
what's the real you that's on the inside, and then what's the mask you show to the outside world. I'm curious about you. Do you have a mask that you show the outside world? Because I don't really see one very
Yeah,
often.
my mask that I show the outside world is I'm Sean Connery, 007, James
I
Bond.
don't know where he
That's
went,
me.
Kathy. He just went somewhere.
He just went to space,
I'm
didn't
I'm
he?
cool, I'm suave. You asked me what my mask was. That's what it is. And
Cool
Hmm.
and suave.
yes, suave
Might
and
need to
debonair.
practice
That's me,
practice
James
that.
Bond.
Phil is very authentic. He very rare. I mean, if he's grumpy, everybody knows he's
Oh,
grumpy. I, however, become very polite if
yes,
I'm
you do.
uncomfortable. I just get more polite.
And when you're really mad, you either cry or become really quiet.
Yes.
Like when I get frustrated at Golf Clash and I swear at playing that game, you get all worked up because I'm expressing myself.
Yeah. Expressing himself.
Well, I think we all put a mask on at times because when I was at the hospital, I had to be nice all day long. I had to listen to people. And I can be in a board meeting and I can watch men argue back and forth. And they leave there and say, "We don't go play golf tomorrow
Hmm.
morning." Women say, "Wait till I call my friends and tell you what was said today."
Mhm.
We're going to eat this and follow it all over. But we all, I think, have times where we have to put out a different front.
Hmm.
And I know when I go into a meeting, if I've had a bad morning because the cat ate my shoes or something went on, or the dog took them, I still have to be nice to those people. And sometimes at the end of the day, I have to get into my meditation part and my peace part out in my yard because it's been a hard day. Sometimes I'm listening to people with some really bad struggles
Mm.
Mhm.
that come on.
Yeah.
But I tell the ladies that I work with when they're young people coming in, I said, you don't really probably, I suggest you don't get into a serious relationship for probably the first year because who you are today is not who you'll be a year from now. Right now, you're coming out of drug court or a bad situation, and all you care about is he's got a car and going to buy you supper. And you're
Mhm.
going to move in with him 2 weeks from now, and life is going to be wonderful.
Mhm.
A year from now, you're going to say, I want somebody who respects me, is accepting my program that I'm working for sobriety, understands I have a relationship with my family. It's going to be a whole different thing of what you want out of a person. So give it some time and work on you.
We did, Phil and I did.
Wait, were you looking for me for like something to eat in a nice car?
No, Phil was flat broke when we met. He had nothing. He might have been looking for a meal from me,
I
maybe.
was never really too concerned about where my next meal was going to come
Yeah.
from.
But we did break those rules. My first year of recovery, his first year after a divorce. Um, I would give the advice that you give, Kathy, though, to
Mm-hmm.
anybody else. I think what has saved Phil and I is both being in recovery and continuing to grow together. There
Mm-hmm.
there there are some years, because we're coming up on 30 years, where the
Wow.
growing wasn't happening. We were
Mm-hmm.
maintaining. Um, but it's been, you kind of scared me at the beginning when you shared about your parents living in two different houses, because Phil and I are doing that for the next
Mm-hmm.
year and a half, and going back and forth.
Yeah.
But I think that, when you do operate out of the same playbook, so we have the recovery playbook, we have the God playbook, that does make all the difference.
Well, I know when my partner, Steve, he doesn't mind me using his name, he went back into recovery. He said it was the most important thing he needed to do. He had really reached, he was a functioning alcoholic, very professional person. But at night, he turned into who he was.
Mm-hmm.
And he said that meant the most thing to him. And he said, if you want to wait for me, I said, I'm not waiting for you. I'm going to do myself. But I was very needy. And his favorite thing was he would say, I'm not your sponsor, read the book.
Mm-hmm.
And we go to different meetings. We're going to a couple of conferences. We're going one in Tupelo and one in Columbus because I wanted to go back and see where I used to live when I was at the W. But we do different things. I can be away from somebody for an hour and feel comfortable. Because when we're together, if I start sharing something, he still has that thing of ego where I'm talking about him, maybe going on.
Mm-hmm.
But we maintain our separate sobriety. And the first couple of years were rough.
Mm.
They were really rough because, of course, I'm reading all the books and he's going to the meetings. We have a separate program. We work with people in different ways. He is strictly down the line, AA 12 steps. And when I got into CCAR and started doing different training, I said, you have to understand, I have to be what I am
Mm-hmm.
and what I want to grow with. And he accepts that. Every once in a while, he has a little comment, but I ignore him that goes on there. But it took us several years to work the programs together, to really be able to discuss things without any kind of animosity or whatever. And now it's beautiful.
Yeah,
He understands.
we like to coach each other. So one of the greatest compliments is said, I need the recovery coach right now. So she'll come up to me and actually say that. And of course, I just end up listening and she figures it out herself anyway. So it's not really all
But he
that
handles
hard.
it different than when I approach my husband who wants to solve the problem for me.
Yeah, well, even your husband has started to give up on that idea too.
Wow. Well, Kathie, it's been wonderful to hear your story. So many different twists and turns.
Gemini.
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 And we really appreciate you spending time with us today.
Oh, I can't wait to see you again.
All right. Hey.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.